the Revisionary Podcast with your host, Juan Carlos. The Revisionary Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Revisionary Podcast. Another week. You guys are back, looking for more stories. And quite honestly, I'm excited to deliver these stories. I'm excited that you guys continue to listen week in and week out. And I feel like I have all these virtual friends who just come in and, hang out and get to have similar conversations with me. And I think that's my favorite part about doing this podcast. So this has been great. And yeah, I'm really excited to deliver another one. This week, we have El-Hadj sitting down to join us. He's a very interesting guy. He's actually a digital artist, and he's the founder of All Hail Art, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it's a platform to promote the discovery of independent artists, which removes the traditional channels of distributions because that creates unnecessary time and expense. So it's a project that he's very passionate about and he's been working on. So I'm excited to hopefully learn a little bit more about it. And honestly, I support everything El-Hadj does. It's funny, sometimes I try to think of stories about how I met certain people so I can share them with you guys. And I don't know. I feel like Hadj is one of those people who I don't know. I just feel like I've just known him for a while, the first encounter that I do remember vividly is I remember having a conversation with him online. He randomly reached out to me. I was like, hey, I have this show down in Brooklyn. I would love it if you would come down and do it. And so I did. I went down, and I walked into this beautiful studio in Brooklyn. It was like this big, open room. And, I don't want to brag or anything, but I did pretty awesome that night. I had a really good set in his room. It was a really fun crowd. It was just one of those nights that where comedy is just really, really fun. Don't get me wrong, on a regular basis, comedy is generally fun, but there's certain nights that are just really, really fun. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the connection you build with the audience or just something magical that's in the air that night. And I really couldn't put a finger to it, but I just remember having so much fun performing in that room. And I'm really glad that I got to do it. So I think that's the first memory I had of meeting him. So I'm really excited that he's agreed to come on this podcast and chat with us today. By the way, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, the way this works is we bring on guests, usually comedians, who tell a nonfiction story about their lives in which they wish things had gone a little bit differently. Afterwards, I give them an opportunity to tell the same exact story, except this time they can change any facts or details that they would like about the story. So, I don't want to get too carried away. So why don't we just go ahead and see if we could get El-Hadj on the line. Hello, Hadj. How are you?
Hey, Juan Carlos. How's it going?
It's going well. Welcome to the Revisionary Podcast. You're here.
Revisionary Podcast.
So what have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I started my own company called All Hail Art. We're trying to remove kind of the traditional channels that of artists to reach audiences. We're trying to connect independent artists with engaged audiences. So that's kind of
pretty dope.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. We're trying to be a discovery platform, really, really hone in on if you're an independent artist, if in any type of an independent artist, you should be able to monetize on your individuality. You should be able to be like, hey, this is me as an individual. Do you mess with me or do you not mess with me? Do you vibe with me? That's what we're trying to foster, these genuine vibes, because I think that the traditional routes of growth for independent artists through social media, through independent marketplaces, through galleries or comedy, any way that you're trying to grow, there's intermediaries there. And those intermediaries sometimes will try to take advantage of you in the guise of exposure or the guise of, connection. So we're doing that, and we're doing that for free, and it's something that people want. Like, people want to connect with artists, people want to connect with people want to connect with, you know, different types of differentiated products coming from differentiated people with independent values and you know, determined aspirations. So yeah, we have a website. It's allhailart.com. We are at Hail the Art on Instagram, and we'll have an app coming out soon. So check that out. It's going to be like Pinterest meets TikTok, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty dope. Why don't you tell the Revisionaries a little bit about yourself and who you are as a person? How'd you get into comedy?
Yeah, so I did the first time I did comedy was I was in school. Well, I was at high school, and I used to I was the president of the improv club, you know, which was just, you know, I loved doing improv. It was kind of a wacky thing, but no one in my school, no one went there. No one. It was a one person, maybe two person club. It was me and literally my buddy. So I would go on stage every Thursday, and I would make these announcements like, "Hey guys, trying to get you to come to improv club. We're having, you know," and just do these like kind of stand up bits. And that was like my first time doing comedy, because all the students were laughing. But the teachers were so mad because it was like taking up actual time to like talk about important events. And I was just going on riffs. Like, there was one time where I showed up in like full African garb, and I was like, it was a whole thing. But when I was in college, I was outside of bar. I went to Boston College, and there's this bar where a lot of, you know, comics were at. There was this, where Boston College was outside of Boston, but it was in this little weird quaint town because a lot of rich people had their like second houses there, but it was also like next to a very alcohol induced school, you know, where people were like drinking every day, and the neighbors would complain. It was like this weird, it made me feel like I was in high school again, honestly. Like, the parents were always watching, but a lot of like Gary Goldman was like doorman at this comedy club bar. It was great for comedy. And I was there was an open mic night, and I was just drinking there, and the guy was like, "Hey, does anyone want to go?" I went up and I told a joke. Everyone laughed. And from there, I was like, okay, this is something that I can do where people can enjoy. Because I would always tell stories, man. I would always, like, so many weird things have happened to me that honestly I wish that I can just like is speaking of revisionary. But you know, it's I think comedy is so good for storytelling, you know, and it's good for, you know, it's good for introspection, but it's really good for expressing yourself through stories, and that was something that I always like to do. So that's how I got into comedy.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. I think that's going to serve as the perfect segue. So, Hadj, go ahead. The stage is yours. Go ahead and tell us your story.
Okay. So I guess, because I have a lot of weird stories. So, you know, when I was younger, I used to drink a lot more than I do now, which was really good for comedy, but really bad for me. And this was still in college, and I went on a spring break, and
where'd you go?
You know, I went to Florida. So I went to this little town in Florida because everyone went to, you know, they were going to like resorts in different places, and I was like, I never was really into that. And honestly, it seemed like a waste of money to me. So my friend lived in Florida, and he was like, come through, like, come down, we'll chill. I live in this like horse town. It's like the polo capital of the world. It's called Wellington. It's a really weird town because there's just horses walking down the street. But he's like, and it's like, I never thought, you know, you have this, there's this notion of a horse girl, but I never knew like polo guys or polo bros. Oh, they're the Absolute worst. Oh my God. Oh my dude. Woo.
They sound terrible.
Oh God. It was just, anyone that like rides horse, everyone that's like, and these people would try to connect with me, based on their horse routines. They would be like, oh yeah, so like today, I'm like taking, Marcy out of the barn and I'm like stroking down. I stroke down the nose. I'm like, dude, But, so, but they would go to Miami and, this is one time that I was like, I'm going down there and then I'm drinking and we're having a good time. And, I'm leaving the next day. So this is at the end of the trip, it's like, it's kind of fun because, while the town was kind of like crazy snobby, like these group of people were like really like, they're like surfer guys. You know what I'm saying? They were like really, really chill, very chill. Just wanted to have a good time, very up my vibe, just like, smoked weed all day and just had a good time. So, we went out, we chilled, and it was the last night. So I was like, all right, guys, let's have a dope time together. Let's stay up all night because my flight's at 7. My mom was like, I'll get your flight. It's totally fine. But I'm going to get early flights at 7 in the morning. So you're back at school and that's it, So I was like, okay, she was like, that's your only job is to make the flight. That's it. I don't care what, just make the flight. And I was like, okay, awesome. I'm just going to drink, I'm just going to drink. I'm going to go out. I'm going to party. And then I'm going to go to the plane, chill, fall asleep, wake up, hang out, wake up in Boston. So it was like, all my friends were like, yeah, sounds like a great plan. We're going to go out. We're going to have fun. So we go out. We're having a good time. I have to go. So I'm leaving. I leave the club and I'm like, okay, guys, I'm pretty inebriated at this point. I'm pretty drunk. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to go back. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to, do my morning ritual. And then I'm going to get the plane. And they were like, awesome. Cause I was pretty drunk. They were like, all right, we'll get you an Uber. So they get me an Uber and they're like, okay, all good. The guy is, I want to say he's probably top 5 biggest douchebags I've ever met in my life. Like I'm going to top 5 biggest douchebags I've ever met in my life. This Uber.
Oh, got it.
This Uber driver was the absolute. Oh my God. Immediately I walk in, right? And it's like a very nice car. And I'm like, okay, awesome, But he's like, I just want you to know this is a $120,000 car. And I'm like, all right, dude, what? I don't care. Like, why is that supposed to impress me? I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And he's wearing glasses inside. And keep in mind, this is 1 o'clock. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. And you're wearing shades. The sun is so long from anywhere in the vicinity. You're in a car. There's not even bright lights. Why are you wearing? I'm pretty sure that is a driving hazard. But he was wearing it, and he was like, just want to tell you it's a $110,000 car. And he was like, I really don't want to pick you up. I really don't want to pick you up. He kept on telling me that. He was like, I don't want to pick you up, bro. I don't want to pick you up. I was like, dude, why? And he was like, I want to be picking up girls, bro. I need to be picking up girls before my daughter wakes up. This is what this guy said. So obviously, the drunk kind of asshole in me, the drunk ass, the drag ass in me was like kind of just pushing him, just egging his buttons, Oh, I was like, really? You want to, you really want to go back? You want to drop me off, drive back so you can pick up these girls before your daughter wakes up? And he was like, yeah, bro, what of it? And that was all fine. We were clearly butting heads. And this was like a 45-minute drive, but I needed to throw up. Right. So that was the bad thing. So I was like, all right, buddy, I got to throw up. And he's like, dude, no, like he cursed me out and being like, no, you're not throwing up in this car. I'm taking you back. You're 20 minutes away. No, you've been getting on my nerves this whole car ride because I was like a little, just like literally poking fun. I'm like, why are you wearing sunglasses inside the car? It's like, what of it, man? And he's like, don't you throw up in this car. It's a $120,000 car. It's a $120,000 car. I obviously proceed to throw up in the car. He pulls over on the side of the highway, drags me, right? Takes my phone and my wallet and drives off.
Oh, he stole your phone and your wallet?
He stops the car, drags me out, takes my phone and my wallet. This is on the side of the highway. This is in between Miami and Wellington. So this is in between Florida. I'm a big black guy with the rope all over me, and I'm just walking around with vomit on me, and I actually black out, and I wake up in the hospital, a John Doe. I wake up literally a John Doe, and I don't know. Obviously, I missed my flight. Obviously,
at this point.
and I, walk out, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, why? What's happening? And the lady's like, you need to get your stuff and go. But before you do, we need your name. And I'm like, what? No. Can I get my phone? So I text I get my phone. I get her phone. I literally ask her. She says, in order for me to give you my phone, you need to write down your address. So I write down my address. I write down my name, write down my social security number, and she gives me the phone. I log into my Facebook. I start messaging my friend. My friend's like, holy, we have been driving up and down the highway looking for you all night. We thought you were dead. The Uber driver's not picking up his phone. No one's picking up their phone. We literally were going to call the cops, but they, we had to wait 48 hours. And I was like, no. I woke up with John Doe, and they were like, leave, man. Do not pay the hospital bill. I was like, but I just put my address. They were like, no, take the paper. So literally, I get this gown, John Doe, and I give her back the phone. I'm like, oh, I just want to do one quick thing. And I take the paper back, and I just cross out everything. And I just hand her the paper back, and I just walk out. And I get in the cab, and I'm like, oh, I don't know exactly where I'm going. But can I use your phone so I can go on Facebook? And he's like, no. And I'm like, please. He says, no. So I go to maybe 3 other cabs. Finally, I get in one, find the place I'm going to. My friend's like, awesome. Thank you for being here. We were so scared. So then I do find my iPhone a bunch of times because I'm like, all right, this dude stole my phone, And at this point in time, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I know my mom is wondering where I am, and she was like, the one thing you have to do is make the flight. That's the one thing I didn't do. And that's the one thing I'm also not picking up the phone. So I'm doing Find My iPhone aggressively. We're there. We're going. We go to this apartment complex 30 minutes out, and we keep on doing it, right? And then we're calling too. We're calling, we're doing the phone. He picks up. He doesn't pick up for a while. Picks up finally. He's like, who is this? I'm like, dude, it's me. Give me back my phone, my wallet. He's like, my daughter is sleeping right now. What are you calling me so early for? And I'm like, what? So he comes down, and I'm like, can I have my phone and my wallet, please? And he's like, listen, man, I was doing you a favor, okay? You were pretty drunk. I had to take you out the car because I thought you could walk back. I was like, you dropped me off in the middle of the highway. He's like, no, man. I thought you could walk back. You were 15 minutes away by car. Anyway, so he was like, yeah. I'll give you the stuff back, but let me tell you something. You don't want to involve Uber with this. Uber's going to be crazy. They're going to ban you. They're going to do I don't know. I'm talking like Trump, but
I was wondering the same thing, but it's fine.
This guy gives me very Trump vibes. If you can imagine a 30-year-old Trump, Miami Trump, that is what this guy was like with the sunglasses on. That is,
to be honest with you, To be honest with you, I just thought you were doing your interpretation of a Florida accent.
Oh, they're one and the same, man. They're literally. And he ended up. We had to pay him like $300 to get the phone and the wallet back. And I missed my flight. And then my parents were like, "Oh, like you always do this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. And then 2 years later, I got the hospital bill. 2 years. They found me quicker than they found Osama.
How did they find you?
I don't know. I have no clue.
Was it an expensive bill?
It was like $2,000, and I honestly, to this day, I have not paid it. I had the mail, and I just threw it away. But I don't think they're gonna pick it up. I don't think they're gonna. But yeah, that's a story that I definitely wish I could revise. Definitely don't like waking up John Doe in Florida.
So let's jump back into this, and if you could revise it, go ahead. What would you change about this story?
I would go home, man. I think during that time, I was so like I was going through a very hard personal time back then, like with my parents.
Sure.
You know, as people do, but I think that something that's not great about the college culture is that they really they nurture your vices instead of your virtues. So, you know, you go there and, you know, what's something that's intended for you to learn and grow and become more of a holistic person, you end up just kind of abusing the freedom and going. So I was, you know, in the middle of a 2-year bender where, you know, which I've never, you know, I barely drink now. I'm having a little, you know, something. I'm having Jesus Christ. It's a boozy sparkling water. This is what I'm having. This is what that is reduced to. And this is something that I can't even finish the tall boy, but it's like moderation is not something that's really taught. And I think that when you're so that, yeah, to answer the question, that's something that I would change. I would have just not gone out the night before a major flight simply to have a night and to you know, kind of fill time until I'm going. You know, I would have just chilled out.
So let's back this up a little bit here. First and foremost, do you want to retell your story?
Yeah,
with your changes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell it. It's shorter that way.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I am going down, you know, to meet my friend in Florida. Great. Have a wonderful time in this very odd and quaint horse town. And at the end of the night, you know, we go out, we have a couple drinks, and then we go back and we watch Scooby-Doo 2. Monsters Unleashed. And then I wake up, I fly back, and I get to my midterm in time because I also missed my midterm. But yeah, that's a revised story. Just
so here, I have a few questions for you. First and foremost, was this guy being aggressive towards you before you got into the car?
He clearly did not like me as soon as I got into the car. He wanted to
pick up women.
He wanted to pick up women, but
which is creepy as all hell, by the way.
It's creepy, dude. It's so creepy. Also, why are you wearing shades? But also, what are you doing? Why do you want to pick up women from? Anyway, and I also laughed when he said this is a $120,000 car, because I'm like, I mean, that's a great flex, but like, you're also an Uber driver. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not a hobby for you.
Yeah. I want to say something real quick. And I'm going to depart from your story for a second, because I think this is very important. When I do this podcast, right, I more than often try to remain as neutral and unbiased as possible, because I think it creates an open and safe environment.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think this might be the second time I've ever taken a stand. So I'm going to say this right now. I think that it is super creepy that an Uber driver would say that he was specifically trying to pick up women. And on top of everything else, the worst part about it is it concerns me that there are men who think like that, because a woman is so vulnerable in that situation.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not in control of the vehicle, and they're not in control of the locks of the doors. So that is not cool. If you think that that's cool, and you guys drive Ubers out there, you guys are listening, that is not cool.
No,
I'm telling you that right now.
It's really not cool. I think that this guy was an exceptional piece of garbage. I honestly will say that to this thing. I think maybe I could have not thrown up on his car, but I also think that was my vigilante act of justice, because this dude was a creep. And then to say, this was the worst part for me, okay? To say that he wants to pick up women before his daughter wakes up. I mean, what? How am I not supposed to react to that? It would be weirder. It would be more strange if I was like in that Uber being like, yeah, you gotta get up. I mean, good for you. You're a creep, but you're a good dad. You know what I'm like? What?
Why? Like, I get that you were drunk. I get that you were inebriated, but why did you continue to, I guess, exasperate the guy when he was clearly in a position of control and you were inebriated?
Oh, because during that time, I was when I thought that I was like right about something and I was drunk, I was like very to that point. I was like, no, you need to understand it. And I would make jokes. He refused to take off the sunglasses. What? Are you a cartoon character? Like, are you a cartoon character? And if so, I would watch this show. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that this was like an actual human being was pretty strange. And I honestly, like, to this day, it literally seems like he's a caricature of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like this Miami douchebag.
Wow.
Yeah, but no, I think that, and I definitely, looking back, as drunk as I was, I definitely should have realized that I should not have poked the bear, because I'm in Florida. I'm like a big black guy, you know, and I'm okay. For anyone that's listening to this, I am like 6'3", you know, 230 pounds. I am dark. It is team darkness over here, right? So Florida,
for those of you guys who are listening, by dark he means not African slave dark. Like he's from the motherland.
Oh yeah. My dad is from Senegal, so straight from He came here when he was 21. So I am like boom. It is boom. You know, I am like. You ever seen Get to the Greek?
Yes, actually.
So you know that scene where Jonah Hill is running and he's like, "Oh, does anyone know the lyrics to African Child?" And the guy's like, "I'm just the happy African guy banging the drums," and he like smiles.
Yeah.
That's me. That's that's me. That's actually so. But just add a little bit of darkness to that. It's funny because my girlfriend is white, and she was saying that she puts sunscreen on indoors. She was like, I put it on my face on the daily, and when I'm inside, and I'm like, imagine being that sensitive to the sun. That indoors you're not even safe. That's why Batman was so in the bag. He's the sun. He didn't have the sunscreen. So it's just, I mean, yeah. Anyway, I'm dark as... So being in Florida is not the move, okay? Walking around drunk in a stand-your-ground state? Woo! Yeah, I count my lucky stars because someone had it out there for me that was like, we're going to take you to the hospital.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, my first question is why your friends let you get in that car, and why, given how drunk you were, none of them were willing to, like, you know, get you home safely. That's the first question.
I think no. I mean, no, I'll answer them both at once. I think that there's a notion of friends of utility and friends of of pleasure and friends of the good, you know. So you have the friends that are, you know, like we're chill, they're, you know, and then you have the friends that are drinking buddies, and then you actually have the friends that are looking after you. And more often than not, the friends that are drinking buddies are not the friends of the good. So it's like they did they did all that they had the emotional bandwidth of doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Especially at like 19.
I also noticed that I think it's interesting that you had an opportunity to revise things, and you didn't revise not getting robbed, because let's call it what it is. He robbed you.
Yeah, he robbed me. Yeah, he robbed me. I mean, yeah, he robbed me. Thank God for find my iPhone. I mean, he robbed, and then he extorted me. Like, because you know what? I don't think I threw up that much in the car. He was like, I don't want Uber to be involved, but I kept on being like, let me see the car. Like, let me see the car. Like, I'll take pictures of it. And like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, no, you don't see the car. You don't see the car after what you did. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I know I was throwing up. I don't think I was throwing up like I don't think I ruined his interior. Like, it's that projectile, like, oh, you know, where the vomit just. So I mean, he robbed me. He full on robbed me. He robbed me, and he drove away, because if he was that concerned, he would have contacted, and he was like, hey, I left your friend on the side of the road.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that, you know what, I actually, to be perfectly honest, I always, because I was, you know, really drinking heavily at that time, and I always was like, oh, that's just a consequence of me drinking. But no, you know what, that dude was exceptionally bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, you were really put in an unsafe, vulnerable situation that could have cost you your life, first and foremost. But second of all, you know, given how inebriated you were, it could have caused you physical harm. Someone could have physically hurt you. You could have been assaulted in a variety of ways, and that's very scary.
That is, it's nerve-wracking, man. And I think that, like, I mean, yeah, there's some of the things that you do when you're younger, you don't really realize. Because, you know, I think I was watching this interesting thing about Frank Barnes or whoever the Catch Me If You Can guy was. He was, you know, the Catch Me. It's a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, and it's about this con artist that pretended to be a pilot, and he pretended to be a whole bunch of things and stole a whole lot of money, and then ended up working with the FBI. And he was saying, because he started a lot of this when he was like 16, and he was saying that because they were like, would you still do it today? Like, because I mean, obviously the con never ends, you know, but like, he was like, no, because I know the risk. And the reason that I did it then is because I was a young person that didn't know what consequences meant. And I think that's like really interesting, because when you're young, you're just doing things, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was more focused on getting my phone back so I can call my mom and like, so she doesn't freak out, and like my midterm, then I was focused on like, okay, I just was robbed. Let me process that emotional trauma. You know what I'm saying? Okay,
yeah.
You know, like I wasn't even, and it's just that type of mentality that honestly, not until COVID, I was really able to take a second to think about, you know, not necessarily in terms of drinking, but just like how I can be intentional with my actions, you know?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Why'd you drink in college?
I drank in college because I was sad and lonely, pretty much. That's honestly what it was. Like, I thought, when you go to college, man, because I went to an all-boys school where I was one of like 5 black people since kindergarten, you know, when people that were in the same grade were 10 times, 50, a million times richer than me. You know what I'm saying? Like so I was in somewhat of a bubble. And when I got to Boston College, which was another, they had 4% black people in Boston College. Right. I mean, that's nuts. So I think when I came to BC, which is a very weird place because Catholics themselves are very repressed. So you're coming into this culture where you already feel inadequate because you're one of, 6 Black people in your school, and you're definitely one of the poorest, which is still my family. They were somewhat well off, and not comparatively to the billionaires. But and then you're going to this very repressed environment where you yourself feel continuously alone. Like, I had a single my first year, so I felt very alone, but there's something, universal when you're young about drinking, because it's taboo. It unites everyone. It's kind of cool that you're doing it, and
right.
You can focus on getting drunk instead of, working on yourself. I don't know.
No, look, I totally get it. And I asked from a non-judgmental place, because I can tell you that personally in college, I felt that, I also went to an all-boys high school. So when I got to college, I felt a little bit socially awkward is what it was. So I would drink more so that I could fit in, and almost use it as a social lubricant. Like, I could not have conversations with people because I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So like when I was a little drinker, we were all, a little tipsy, it's easy to be like, woo, woo. And if I said anything that was a little awkward or weird, I was like, oh, my bad. It's the alcohol.
You're just drunk. And it's like, it's crazy how many, and that's where it began, the trend of me having these friendships purely based on drinking. You know what I'm saying? Where, cut to the next year, those, the same people are like, yeah, just get in, hop an Uber, because it's like, as soon as the drinking stops, the friendship stops. You know what I'm saying? That's that's a problem with using alcohol as like, or anything as a crutch or anything, like not, I think that my freshman and I think for a lot of time, a lot of people, it doesn't really matter if you're in college or anything, there are barriers preventing you from actually connecting with someone. And sometimes you depend on those barriers, like I know a lot of people that will say, oh yeah, I'll bring weed, so people can smoke and chill and stuff. But it's the same type of dependency, which comes from I feel like an insecurity of the self. I don't know.
Well said. And we're coming up on the time here, so I think that's the perfect ending note. Before I let you go, we have 2 traditions on this podcast. The first is we like to highlight a charity or an organization or a cause that our guest is passionate about. Do you have one to share with us?
Yeah. So my parents have a charity. My grandmother. There's a little bit of backstory. My grandmother and my mother, they started a travel agency because they realized that people weren't going to Africa. And this is back in the 70s when no one was really going to Africa. And my mom is not African, neither is my grandmother, but they fell in love. They went to Africa and they realized this is the important connections that Black Americans have to have. So they really were the first people to start doing that and start going to Africa. And we brought some really cool people over. We brought members of the Jackson 5 and a bunch of really cool people over to Africa and started the Cape Town Jazz Festival. So when my grandmother died in Goree Island, which is the port where slaves used, it was the final door. They called, there's a port. It was a port where slaves would be transported from Africa.
Right.
America, and because of the geography, the West, that was one of the most famous ports. And they literally called like it the door of no return to where you would go and you would never come back, because the whole island, Goree Island, was off the coast of Senegal, was it was a pretty much a prison, and then you would get in like a holding ground until you got sold to the slave captors that would take you to America. So when my grandmother died, we wanted to do something on Goree Island to bring constant reverent. We just want to remember all the stuff that happened there and the important historical moment. But not only that, is to really educate and foster that individuality by way of resources in the children of Senegal and West Africa. So the charity is called Help Africa Save Their Children, because it's primarily children focused. It's focused on, we're building the sustainable park in Goree Island.
Wait, isn't this a large, national organization?
No, that's...
Okay, I'm thinking of a different one. Sorry.
Yeah, everyone says that it's a different one. A different one.
All right.
They're actually making a difference. We're just talking about it. No.
For those of you guys who are listening, so you don't get confused and you do support the right one if you so choose to.
Yeah.
Hadj is going to give me the link. It'll be in the show notes, or feel free to hit him up on Instagram. I'm sure he'll happily tell you which one it is and point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Don't give any money to that one because they kill babies. No, they don't. They actually don't.
So say the name one more time of your charity.
Help Africa Save Their Children, HASTC. And we're building a sustainable park in Goree Island, and we're also doing a lot of scholarships in the Lycée Mamalé school in Dakar. So pretty cool stuff. That's where the focus is, because I think that education, education not meaning formal education, but just understanding yourself as an individual, which means understanding, objectively your past, even though it doesn't have to be focusing on your past traumas, it's still recognizing how you
the history
individual it's got there. I think that's just really important to the development of people in the society full of people. So
okay, so that's pretty dope. The second tradition that we have on this podcast is we like to ask our guests if they can share a quick childhood story that puts a smile on their face or generally makes them feel warm inside. Do you have one for us?
Ooh, a childhood story that generally makes me feel warm inside.
The first one that comes to mind.
Every year for my birthday, my mom would put on the wall, in descending order, photos of it would just be she would wake up early, make breakfast, and then put photos of me all over the house. And really, I think that's where my narcissism started. It was right there, just seeing me, waking up, seeing photos of only me. No, it was really nice though, because the night before she was like, any breakfast, anything, just it's your day. But I couldn't talk about, because I would always get so excited about it, but I couldn't talk about it until a month before my birthday, because she was like, this will annoy me so much. As soon as my birthday is February 1st, as soon as it became January 1st on New Year's, every New Year's, I would be like, okay, so I want pizza for lunch and pizza for dinner, and then pizza with bacon and eggs for breakfast. And she was like,
nice. So, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the Revisionary podcast. Before I let you go, of course, do you have any last word for the Revisionaries?
Hey, Revisionaries. This is me. It's Hadj. How's it going? Keep on listening. This is an amazing podcast, and you're listening to Revisionaries.
Where can we follow you?
At Hail the Art on Instagram or allhailart.com. Haji Art is my personal art thing, which is cool.
Perfect. Well, on that note, I want to say goodbye.
Goodbye, my friend.
The Revisionary Podcast.
So, should we talk about that? I feel like there was a lot going on there, and I'm just quite honestly, I'm glad that he made it out of that entire ordeal very safely. And I'm gonna say something, and I will openly admit this. A lot of people seem to talk a lot of. They seem to trash talk Florida And I didn't realize that was a thing, but I'm someone who lived in Florida for a few years, and I willingly chose to live in Florida, and I do not regret my decision. So I will say this, a lot of wild stuff happens in Florida, but I don't necessarily think that this was something that was Florida specific. I'm going to defend Florida. You know, I'm a New Yorker through and through, but, you know, Florida was a place that I did call home, so it's very near and dear to me. So I'm going to defend Florida whenever I get a chance. You know, it's different if I call Florida trashy, and I'm not even a Floridian, but you know what I mean? But at least I live there. You know what I mean? Like if a Floridian or someone from Florida calls it trashy, that's different. But come on, man. Lay off Florida if you're not from there, if you haven't lived there. And I'm taking this from a rude standpoint because, again, I am not a Floridian. I've never been a Floridian. You know, Florida is simply a place I called home for a few years. You know, it's kind of like people who moved to New York for a few years. You know, you never become a New Yorker, but, you know, you did call New York home. So I'm going to defend Florida. So that's what that is. Please continue to tune in. And honestly, I appreciate your support week in and week out. And I just want to let you know, I'll leave you with this last nugget. There are a few things in the works, and you know, we're about to make some moves, so hopefully they pan out, and I'm really excited to be able to announce them all to you. So, you know, just tune in, and as always, thank you for listening.
This is the Revisionary